All right. Good morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you are listening to this in time or non-time. I am Prasicor, the internet's least favorite Super Bowl hater, and I am joined today by a very special guest joining us from the Jurassic Outpost and the In General podcast, uh, where you can catch any and all news relating to the Jurassic Park franchise, up to and including news and information on the development of Jurassic World 2. Chris Pugh.
How's it going?
It's good. It's going good. See, that time not only did I get it right, but it rhymed.
Yeah,
So there, double
the
whammy.
prep time.
Alrighty. So the subject of today's talk is very important to the both of us, and that is what is the future of the Jurassic franchise. Essentially, I was going to say Jurassic Park franchise, but
Yeah,
it's kind of more the Jurassic World franchise
yeah,
now.
it's a bit strange referring to it as the Jurassic World franchise because we've known it as Jurassic Park for so long.
Yep, 22 years.
But you kind of have to refer to it as Jurassic World at this point because it, that's I mean all the branding and merchandising and you know brand synergies. It's all on the Jurassic World branding, so you kind of have to adjust to. You can't talk about the Jurassic Park franchise, but then have everything that's coming out called Jurassic World.
Yep. Certainly
It's
not if you're.
peculiar.
Yeah, it is peculiar. It feels weird. Certainly not if you're talking in like an official context. Because here's the thing: like normal people who are not Jurassic Park hardcore fans, they still think of it as Jurassic Park. They still call it Jurassic Park. I remember like even going to the movies with people when Jurassic World was out, and they'd be saying, "Oh, let's go see Jurassic Park." It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, as far as the franchise's official incarnation now, it is World. Um,
Yeah,
so
I mean they might switch back to Park eventually, maybe after the World trilogy kind of concludes, but it's sort of a branding headache, isn't it?
it is. It is.
Getting audiences to have the Jurassic World branding resonate, and it becomes like the main name for it, and then reverting back to Park or dropping Park. I mean, it's a very strange thing, and I kind of get the feeling that World's here to stay. I mean, I might be wrong, but I do get the feeling that World's here to stay beyond the trilogy.
At least for a while,
Yeah,
you know, until they eventually remake Jurassic Park.
yeah, and that's probably sometime way down the line if that
Yeah.
ever happens.
Oh, it'll happen. It may take a while, and but it'll happen. Um, but anyway, so yeah, the future of the Jurassic franchise, even going beyond Jurassic World 2, because as we just mentioned, this is going to be a trilogy. There is going to be another movie after this, but also just even more in general, um, what is the future of this franchise going to be? What's it going to look like? Because as we've seen from other movie franchises, uh, they can hang around. I mean, Star Wars has been making movies for uh, over 30 years, or about 30, exactly
Yeah,
30 years at this point. So are we going to be still making Jurassic Park movies? Long after we do the first one. You know.
yeah, and I mean that is I think kind of the question. I mean, that's definitely a question that for a fact that Universal is having internally, um,
Mhm.
pretty heavily. I mean, I'm sure that they're like, okay, we've got Jurassic World, we've got the sequel, and we've got the third one that concludes that trilogy. But what does it mean for them? What do they want?
Hello.
But what will it be? And what do you think it will be? I'm curious. Versus like, what do you want it to be? Do you think
Uh,
the two are going to be the same?
that's an extreme. That's a loaded question right there. Um, because well, first of all, I'll just start off by saying a little note. I don't think Universal even knows what to do with Jurassic World. They certainly didn't know what to do with it when they were making the first one, quote unquote, slash the fourth one.
Yes.
Oh god, it's Star Wars all over again. um, but yeah, what do I want versus what do I think is going to happen? Well, I'll just stay right off the bat, and this is probably going to get me some grief from many Jurassic Park fans, probably all of them actually, which is that I want the franchise to die, or at least be reborn in a guise that is very, very unlike the original. Um, I am one of those Jurassic Park fans who's not does not really like. That's not true. I shouldn't say I don't like 2 and 3 and 4. I do like them, but I don't think they're good, which is an important distinction for me. Um, I don't think Jurassic Park lends itself to sequels very well. I think it's a beautiful, almost kind of perfect standalone story, and that's one of the biggest sort of wrestles with ideas and plans for sequels has always been whenever you talk with other fans, they're always like, "Yeah, that sounds interesting, but it doesn't sound like Jurassic Park."
Yeah,
And that's because Jurassic Park is very limited in its scope. So I think Jurassic Park does not lend itself to sequels at all very well. However, I think it does lend itself very well to spin-off movies.
yeah. I think something that I've been honestly thinking about quite a bit are kind of like standalone spin-offs, like that fit within the franchise canonically, but that could be their own unique individual stories that are told.
Yeah, kind of like Rogue One, but not boring.
Oh god, I did not like Rogue One.
I didn't
really
hate
did
it,
not
but
like
I was.
Rogue One.
I didn't hate it, but it was boring more
I
than
need to see it
anything.
again and see if my opinion changes on it. But I just felt like the story. What story?
Yeah.
Actually, what characters?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's neither here nor there. But no, I think that Rogue One is an interesting thing, interesting example. Although it's still very Star Warsy.
Yeah. Perhaps a better example would be Fantastic Beasts.
Okay, yeah.
Hold on, I have a cat here who's playing with plastic, so I gotta get her out.
Okay.
That's not yours. All right, so Fantastic Beasts as sort of a case study of a spin-off movie and how that might sort of work for a Jurassic Park type thing. Now, I didn't. I was torn heavily on Fantastic Beasts for a lot of things, and in fact, anybody who follows my channel will know that I've actually started doing a fan rewrite of it. The first chapter of that is available to listen to. Shameless, gratuitous self-promotion right there. But nonetheless, what we have is a story where none of the original characters are involved. In fact, they can't be involved because most of them don't exist yet.
Yeah.
And we are dealing with characters who, in some ways, are very different. We're in a totally different context. These are not kids at school. These are full-grown adult wizards, hopefully, who are sort of involved in the larger world. And we have a totally different setting, not only in time, but in place as well. So we go from what people oftentimes forget is supposed to be 1990s Britain to 1920s New York, which, again, say what you will, but I think if the whole idea of a spin-off movie is that you're spinning off from the main franchise and doing your own thing, I think Fantastic Beasts does a much better job than Rogue One in terms of like really trying to do something different.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. It does kind of weave its own identity, rather than just feeling like Rogue One. It's standalone, but it sort of isn't at the same time. In fact, it really relies to enjoy the movie. It really relies on your pre-existing knowledge of the franchise, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
Where Fantastic Beasts, for the most part, works very independently as a movie.
Yep.
You know, it could be your first foray into the wizarding world, and it 100% achieves it. I'm not saying it's entirely perfect, but I think that it really does achieve that.
Right. So if we were going to do that with Jurassic Park, then what we would do is that we have so in the case of Fantastic Beasts, it's the wizarding world. It's the world where magic exists and wizards and witches are living sort of in the cracks and crevices and shadows of the world we know. For Jurassic Park, what that would mean is we are now living in a world where genetic technology has allowed for the resurrection of previously extinct animals and what people will do with that technology. So in the first movie, one of the things that people are going to do with this technology is put them in a park and charge admission, which is one of the more likely things that people would do because it's the one that sort of immediately sets out to make money.
Yeah.
So, like Michael Crichton said when he originally first got the idea for cloning dinosaurs, it was, well, okay, fine, you can clone dinosaurs, but so what? It's not
What
a
do you
cure
do with
for
it?
what do you do with it? You can't sell it, or maybe you can. So that's where the theme park idea came from. So now that we are living in this world where genetic technology is a thing, and prehistoric animals are now a thing, what do we do with that? So a few ideas were actually thrown out about a year ago, just about a year ago, by Mark Whitten, the paleo artist slash pterosaurologist, and he was just kind of throwing ideas out there. There wasn't a whole lot of development put into them, but certainly as like stepping stones, there were quite a few different ones. There was everything from resurrecting human line apes, so things like Homo erectus and things like that, and sort of the weird ethical things that might pop up from that.
Yeah.
To having like a world where farmers in remote locations are using giant sauropods to plow fields and things like that. So that again, not every idea is going to work, obviously, and not every idea interests me as much as every other one. But definitely, that's the sort of thing that most interests me is the idea of a planet Earth, a Jurassic world, if you will, where dinosaurs are now part of it in some way.
Yeah. I mean, I really dug that piece that he did. I thought that he threw out a lot of really cool ideas. It's not necessarily what I want from Jurassic World 2 or 3 because I felt like it was almost too much of a tonal shift.
Yes.
And since they're trying to tell a story right now, I kind of feel like, okay, they need to kind of like tell this style of story, but like after the Jurassic World 2 and 3 movies, it's kind of like,
what now?
Yeah, you can go in so many different directions. Obviously, we don't know where those movies end often, but there's still a lot of different options, and I think going something a little wilder and crazier. Not dinosaur soldiers wild and crazy. I don't want to see. I don't want to see dinosaurs with Gatling guns like in place of arms. I'm not sure if you saw that particular piece of Carlos Volante artwork.
Oh my god, I haven't.
That one just came out like within the past year on his Instagram.
Oh wow.
I'll see if I can pull it up just so you can have an idea of what I'm talking about.
It's crazy. It's crazy to mention that because for whatever bizarre reason, I don't know who's pushing it. I don't know if it's Universal. I don't know if it's Spielberg. I don't know who it is, but someone, within the 14 years in between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World, was really pushing dino hybrids, dino soldiers. Yeah, I have no idea who that was, but they need to be hit.
I'm pretty certain it's Spielberg, actually.
Oh,
I know that sounds absurd, but I'm pretty certain it is Spielberg.
Dude, what happened to you?
It just, I don't know if like it's just one of those things that like it's where an idea spawns from, and he's not delving deeper into like the creation of the story process. If like he were directing the movie, he would probably start with the idea and end up with something really grounded and that we're used to, kind of like Jurassic World kind of grounded the idea. But he's kind of going into like the crazy, blue sky part of the development and just going, this is what I want to see. And not really taking it any further, not really thinking about it much more.
All right, let's take a look at this. Oh, come on, Skype. What are you doing? It's not giving me the text option.
No?
No.
Should be.
Oh, wait, there it is. There we go. Oh, wow.
So
That is a thing of B-movie beauty.
so you have this monstrous. I wouldn't even say it reminds me of a dinosaur. If I didn't know that was supposed to be part dinosaur, I really wouldn't know until you look at the feet with the sickle claws.
Yeah, and even then, I'd see. I wouldn't go, "Oh, it's a dinosaur." I'd just be going, "Oh, they looked at dinosaurs for inspiration for this
They
orc
they
thing."
made the swamp monster and gave it a biomechanical gun arm.
Yeah, this does not say dinosaur to me at all.
Doesn't especially doesn't say Jurassic Park to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But let's all just be thankful that that never happened.
Yeah, we know that some really weird ideas circulated for a long time, and some came closer to fruition than others. Thankfully, this one I don't think really got beyond just kind of the spitballing phase. I don't think that this idea had an entire script.
I certainly don't think this idea ever went beyond this phase, this concept art phase.
But it's funny though because elements of that still do exist in Jurassic World. It's not like the idea was completely thrown away. Like like we were just saying, the idea of hybrids and the idea of dino soldiers,
Yeah,
they persevered.
yeah, I really do have to wonder why though. But that's another question for another time. So if you don't know like what's sort of going on at the moment in terms of the development of Jurassic World 2, my first suggestion would be to go check out Jurassic Outpost because that's going to catch you up pretty quickly. Um, but so far, even after being mostly disappointed by Jurassic World, at least in retrospect, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't excited for it or that I wasn't there, the night of, or that I wasn't loving it when I was watching it. I did. I have too much invested in this franchise personally to not feel things um, from the long-awaited fourth sequel or third sequel, technically.
Yeah,
But looking back on it, it's definitely sort of not the movie I would have made, which is most unfortunate because I think it has a lot of really great ideas in it. I just don't think they go the ways that I personally would have gone with them if I were in the director's chair. Then again, maybe
yeah.
maybe
I
that's
think
why I'm not in the director's chair.
that is kind of the interesting thing. Is I think Jurassic World it kind of took a lot of people by surprise because it wasn't the Jurassic Park 4 that people envisioned in their minds. And maybe that is part of the reason why they went with it is because it was kind of just different from what people wanted and expected. And perhaps that is how it ended up being made because it wasn't what we all envisioned for the past 14 years.
Well, I don't know about you, but I was having a heck of a hard time envisioning anything. I
Yeah,
was rattling my brain trying to come up with an idea for a fourth movie that wouldn't be contrived and awful.
yeah. I mean, like especially for all the years, it was hey, the entire original cast is returning, and it's kind of going like, but how?
How and why?
Like, yeah, like what plot? Like they don't own Engine, they
Yeah.
don't own the island. They don't want their character loops have so like evolved past wanting anything to do with the dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if their character loops kept them, interested in it, that would be another thing. But that's not the case at all.
Yep. Absolutely.
So when those rumors would, and there were more than rumors. I mean, like you'd have like Frank Marshall or Kathleen Kennedy come in and say, "Yeah, we're talking to Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, and Laura Dern," and you just go, "Huh." And like, I honestly wonder what story and script ideas they had because the only script that ever leaked actually was the one from 2004, where it was like the full-on reboot idea, which John Sayles wrote, where it's about a guy who trains Raptor soldiers. I think his name was Nick Harris, if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't read the John Sayles script, so I wouldn't know.
Really?
Really. I heard Dino Soldiers. I'm like, that's it.
You should read it now because I mean, like, there are so many semblance, like the similarities with the Jurassic World. There are times you go, oh, whoa, like this idea has been circulated for a while. You know, the Raptors. There's 5 in that script rather than 4, but they're named. I can't remember them all right now, but one's like Achilles, and but yeah. I mean, it's a very So they're trained, and of course, there's no hybrid dinosaur that makes them go rogue. They kind of their own intelligence and their own just wants make them go rogue. But Nick Harris is an ex-military guy. He's you kind of imagine him as like the pretty boy type of character that Chris Pratt plays in Jurassic World.
Yes.
But there's just a lot of little things here to go. Like, yeah, this definitely led into Jurassic World. Like, this idea has existed 10 years, like in a script form, 10 years before Jurassic World happened, and it took them a long time to actually make it not crappy. Like, I mean, because that script had a fully equipped like Dilophosaurus, like with like a bulletproof armor vest, like jumping out of the back of a helicopter and parachuting down into a military mission to take out like a drug lord. It's so wild. You just cannot believe you're reading it when you're reading it. You're just going like, what the hell?
Although to be fair, how many movies, if we just read the script, would we be going, oh, there's no way you can make this work?
That is true. The thing is, it wasn't like a Jurassic Park movie. It didn't have any of the awe and wonder or anything like that. I mean, it had an Ankylosaurus in the dungeon. It had 5 Velociraptors. It had the Dilophosaurs. And I don't even know. And it had Pteranodons. It had the Pteranodons from the end of Jurassic Park 3. The movie starts out with the Pteranodons swooping in and attacking a Little League game. And then it ends with a cameo appearance by the Pteranodons. Out of nowhere, for some reason, they just and even the script points it out, saying that they don't make any sense, because the character goes, what? You shouldn't be here? This doesn't make any sense. He literally says it right before the Pteranodon eats him. It was just the weirdest, self-aware, B-movie, crappy, goofy experience I've ever read. Oh, and I'm sorry, there was a mosasaur. That was the other thing. There was a mosasaur, and there was Isla Nublar, and there are also things called Escavaraptors, which are like trapdoor spider velociraptors.
What?
I don't know. It literally just brings it up out of nowhere. It's like the Escavaraptors, and it's like they lived underground on Nublar and attacked like trapdoor spiders. It was just really weird. And like it was just like a one-off action scene towards the beginning, like while they're on Nublar because they're going for the Barbasol can.
Of course.
It was just you've got to read it, because it is. There are too many things to even like describe that happens, and it's just like it's a very unique experience.
Well, now I could probably enjoy it more, because before Jurassic World came out, I would just be reading it and crapping my pants in terror that the 4th Jurassic Park movie might actually look something like this. But now that it's passed, it's kind of like I could enjoy it now.
Yeah. There is. I mean, it's in its own way. It is sort of well written. As in, it's entertaining.
Right.
It's certainly. It could have worked. It could have worked in like a cabin in the woods type of way.
From what you're saying, it definitely feels a lot like the writer John Sayles was given the idea of make this movie about dinosaur soldiers and whatnot, and he wrote the movie you would write from that premise.
Yeah.
And then just being like every so often being like, oh right, this is a Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, they're like you can tell like he didn't do a ton of research, because I forget how to pronounce it. What the Australian frilled lizard?
Yeah,
it starts with a C.
I think that's what I've always just heard it called, that Australian frilled lizard.
I think it's got a different name, like a specific name. Hold on. It starts with a C-H-A. It's like Camalodiosaurus or something like that, actually.
Well, that might be like the scientific name.
Yeah. Well, that's what he calls the Dilophosaurus in the script.
Oh. That sounds like he wasn't. It's not that he wasn't doing research; it's that he was doing research, and his research led him to the wrong place.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like kind of forgot. Yeah, it's Chlamydosaurus kingi. I don't know.
Okay,
He must
yeah.
have saw it and was like, oh, hey, look, it's a dinosaur. It's got saurus at the end of it. Um, so for some reason that's what they're called. But he also calls them spitters,
Right,
which then
right.
they're Dilophosaurus.
Yeah.
But also there's another weird one where they're swinging tree to tree by using their tails.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, for all these years I've been trying to envision like what exactly that was going to look like, and all I could think of is Shia LaBeouf and
Oh god.
kicking with the crystal skull when he's like swinging vine to vine. But I'm just imagining Dilophosaurus doing that, wearing tactical gear, but swinging with their tails.
That's weird. Have you ever watched a Primeval?
You know what? I didn't watch all of it. When the cast started changing pretty dramatically, I stopped watching.
Yeah, I can see why. I kept with it begrudgingly. And in I think the fourth season, there is a speculative monkey dinosaur.
Oh, you know what? I think I've seen that.
Yeah, yeah, that's what that is. It's like swinging from the trees and such.
Yeah, do you know what that's called?
It's called the tree creeper.
Tree creeper. Okay, yeah. No, I definitely have seen that. It's been a while, but yeah, no, I've definitely seen that.
Okay. Yeah. So, we went off a little bit of a tangent here. So, in terms of the future of the franchise, let's start with the immediate future. So, Jurassic World 2. Because not only is this the immediate future, this is also the one we have the most evidence for. So far, I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic. Because even though I'm very critical of the Jurassic franchise as a whole for a lot of reasons, I don't want to just hate on it needlessly. And from what I've seen so far, I think the choice of director is interesting.
Yeah, did you see Monster Calls or any of his other films?
I have not yet, but I do. I have to. It's required reading.
The Impossible is on Netflix if you wanted to check that one.
Oh,
out.
okay. All right.
So that's the one that starred Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts about the tsunami.
Oh,
I think it was in 2004, the tsunami. But
right.
It's a very good movie, and it's very different than The Orphanage and A Monster Calls. I think what's really cool is all three of those movies are very, very different from one another.
Yeah.
But it's on Netflix, so give it a watch.
Okay, yeah. It's definitely his work has got to be required reading for any serious Jurassic fan at this point.
Yeah.
I do like they've gone with somebody with a little bit more experience than Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, he's totally been in the industry. J.A. Bayona, he's totally been in the industry for a while. He has some really solid films under his belt.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's only done, I think what Jurassic World's going to be his fourth feature picture. And otherwise, I think he's got some TV episodes underneath his belt. So he's still relatively fresh in the industry.
Yeah.
But he feels, something about him even feels seasoned.
Yeah, that's what I got. Even just from the trailers for Monster Calls, it felt there was something. I like actually your words probably the best. Seasoned, someone who just feels like they know.
Yeah, you can tell that he's. I mean, he might not have them on his IMDb page, but you can tell that he's been working in film for a long time. Probably writing, directing shorts and things like that. You can tell that it's not just like something that he just did on a whim.
Right. So definitely, I think that's a good choice of director. The decision to film in Wales, I was looking at those images that you posted on your Twitter, and wow, that's gorgeous.
It is. It's absolutely stunning there. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. There's so many different places across the world that I'm just like, man, I'd love to see a movie filmed there. A Jurassic movie, that is.
Yeah.
And Wales is beautiful.
Yeah, and that's good not only because it's beautiful in and of itself. I mean, that's good, but also what it tells me is that they're not just going for the scares. I feel like Jurassic World put too much emphasis on dinosaurs as scary, whilst forgetting that dinosaurs are also quite beautiful. We get that one sort of. It feels more like a pastiche more than anything when they're in the gyrosphere.
Yeah, that scene feel very. It just feels very manufactured
Mm-hmm.
to me. Like it felt like very. I don't know. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel organic. So
It didn't.
the wow factor did not work for me.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, partially it's the dinosaurs themselves don't look great. Um, Definitely the not interesting colors at all. But also, there's just something about the way they're placed in the scene.
It just doesn't look natural. It looks very Disney World VR experience ride.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the best way I can describe it, at least.
yeah. It's almost too ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if
Yeah,
like if I went to a zoo and had an experience like that, I would like legitimate. I would be suspicious of the zoo.
yeah. It's the way you turn the corner and they're all magically posed, but they're not even really. They're not even hurting the way like they're not behaving the way that I suspect animals like them would behave. Just there's something about it that doesn't feel natural. There's no there's no grouping structure by species. You know, there's a
Mm.
Triceratops here, there's a
Yeah,
Triceratops there, there's Apatosaurs everywhere, but there's no like real structure to it, and none of them are really. You know, some are lying down, some are walking. Suddenly they all run next to the gyrosphere, but none of it really. None of it like the animation isn't natural. It doesn't work in my opinion.
no.
It's too bad because I felt like the Lost World Jurassic Park and even Jurassic Park 3 did really well. It did well without Hertz.
Yeah, I think so too. Actually,
Like
um,
very natural. I mean, other than that boat scene in JP3, which I felt suffers from the same problem that the gyrosphere scene suffers from.
being just a little bit too idyllic.
Yeah. Also, the boat scene's not helped by the nightmare fuel Brachiosaurus.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Brachiosaurus is kind of ugly.
Yeah, no, for sure. It just there's this. I think they tried to go for like beauty,
Mm.
but then they had to just lean into the camera really, really close, and you could see its weird teeth and just everything about that was just very strange looking. That entire experience, you just go, what the hell? Like I don't know. That Brachiosaur scene frightens me.
I mean, I don't know. I love that scene, but I mean, I can definitely see where you're coming from. But anyway, so because I'm looking at these vistas of Wales, and if indeed that is what they're going for, you know, it is a beautiful location to put beautiful dinosaurs in. Hey, I'm all for that.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm trying to think. There was something else. Viral marketing.
but actually, that's something that I think that has been very untouched. Even like Masrani Global, it scratched the surface, and it really is great. You know, there's so much detail in it, but it never really like became as interactive, and the scale wasn't quite there. Like I think that that's a cool way to continue stories and expand stories.
Hmm.
Is viral marketing, expanded universe materials like that.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
That's a good way to get the Michael Crichton sort of the very sciencey elements. If you want like a lot more of that, like the best place to do that is put like the viral materials and the websites and stuff like that. In my opinion, at least.
That's true. I mean, that's definitely interesting because one of the because I'll just flat out say it, I don't like Michael Crichton as a writer.
No,
I think I think he's got a lot of great ideas, but I just don't think he's as great as telling stories or creating characters. And one of the problems with his books is that way too much time is devoted to explaining the research that he did for the book.
there is. Yeah, he definitely goes into the research for quite a bit. I think some of his later novels, though, he kind of it feels more organic. Um, but I think though that what's interesting is Jurassic Park has all that research and everything thrown into the dialogue and the explanation. And I just reread The Lost World, and I was kind of surprised by it didn't really have that element at all.
Not as
And
much.
it kind of felt strange almost, like what it didn't resonate with me as well.
Interesting. Um, but on that note, viral marketing is a great way to get that information in there without it obstructing everything around
Storytelling,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I think it still should be in. Jurassic Park the movie, I felt like it incorporated the science very organically.
Yes, true.
And I think that element was lacking from Jurassic World.
Yes, definitely.
So I think that's something that I really want to see. Honestly, all of the films continue to include to a degree the idea that it's more than just the action scenes. It's more than just the dinosaurs. I like the world, the science of it, the morality of it. The debates, the characters. Sometimes it's not just about this character surviving, or it's not just about their personal growth. I like the world building of the way Jurassic Park handled it. I thought was fantastic.
Yes.
That scene when they're all sitting around debating before things go bad. They're the patented put in a lunchbox. That entire speech, entire scene. It is so good. It is one of the best scenes in the entire film.
Yep. And yeah, the world building is something that the Jurassic Park franchise has always done. Has always, to me, mostly kind of struggled with.
You can tell they never expected to make. Jurassic Park was meant to be a standalone movie.
Mm-hmm.
So then the sequel happened, and The Lost World. Like it, don't like it, whatever. But it takes the sequel in a way that makes sense. The problem about The Lost World is it really didn't set up a third Jurassic Park.
Absolutely.
And Jurassic Park 3 definitely didn't set up a fourth Jurassic Park.
Nope. Jurassic Park 3 didn't set up anything even for itself.
For itself, yeah. So I don't know.
It's a thing that like I said before, Jurassic Park does not lend itself well to sequels. Certainly, the novel definitely, and actually the novel probably lends itself better to sequels than the movies because at least they included a little part at the end. Actually, forget the end. Pretty much I think it's the second chapter where we learn that dinosaurs have already gotten off the island.
Yeah, it's almost right away. It totally makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying that you would have herds of sauropods, migrating through Costa Rica or anything like that, but the idea of the Confsong that's getting off the island, that totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that immediate biological impact of a invasive species, I can't believe that the films haven't touched on that.
No.
Because I think that is the most obvious route to go for the stories in the sequels.
Honestly, it's probably too smart and too interesting.
I mean, I get it. Yeah, you can't make a movie about dinosaurs on the mainland in the sense that you can't suddenly have like Tyrannosaurus or anything like that on the mainland, and without having a good reason for it to be there. You can't suddenly be like, yeah, and things happen, and whoops, they're free, and they're migrating across the world, and dinosaurs are taking over the world. No, that's stupid, and you would need tons of movies to set that up. You would have to have good reasons, but it doesn't. Jurassic Park doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to be a disaster film. We can set up a Jurassic World like we were talking about earlier. A world with dinosaurs, but you have to be smart about it. You can't just suddenly thrust Tyrannosaurs onto the mainland, at least canonically 10 years after Jurassic Park or 20 years after Jurassic Park. If the films after Jurassic World have a giant time leap, there's opportunities there.
Wait, they do?
No, if they do.
Oh, if they do. I thought Jurassic World 2 was going to be in real time.
I think it is. Yeah, I know. I think that Jurassic World 2 certainly takes place in real time. That's kind of the Jurassic Park thing. So it should probably be 3 years afterwards. It makes sense, the actors, using the same actors, you're not going to have this giant time leap.
Yeah.
So, no, I'd imagine Jurassic World 2 is a real-time sequel.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Another thing is that, so I am part of the camp of Jurassic Park fans who believe that we need accurate dinosaurs in the movie.
I'm totally there with you. I kind of hit a strange middle ground, though, because you probably know, I also fondly love the iconic designs created for the first film, and I don't want to see any film designs retconned. In other words,
no.
Yeah, you can have the classic Jurassic designs next to accurate designs, and you can make the accurate designs look like they fit in with the universe. I mean, you've just got to bring in the proper artists, like Crash McCreery and John Rosengrant and a lot of the other talent that worked on Jurassic Park, and basically say, hey, look at the accurate dinosaurs with feathers, but put them into the art style of Jurassic Park. Crash McCreary's dinosaur art has a certain style to it, which really resonated in the final film. Just like Mark Whitten's got his own art style versus Todd Marshall. Neither one of them draw dinosaurs the same way.
Right.
They might be interpreting the dinosaur accurately, but there's a wide range of ways you can visually vary that. And I think the franchise could totally do accurate dinosaurs on screen, and I think it would be awesome.
Yeah.
It would be a whole new world of art, imagination, and seeing dinosaurs on the big screen. You can get that new wow factor of like, this is what dinosaurs look like.
Right, and that's a great thing about the Jurassic franchise is that it has its own explanations for this. So if you watch the Alien movies, the alien doesn't look the same in any of the movies.
No, it really doesn't.
The head looks different. They got different numbers of fingers. The tail's different. Yada yada yada. But it's never explained. It's just, oh, they're different this time. But with Jurassic World / Park, you have an out, which is the genetic engineering.
Yes.
So in my Jurassic World rewrite, which is not done, it's over 120,000 words, but it's not done.
It's getting sizey.
Yeah, that's because it tells the story of like everything from 1997 up to 2015. But anyway, in that version, I decided to use that rumored plot point that never materialized, but I was really hoping it would, which is the idea of the wild raptors living in an untouched section of Isla Nublar, away from the park. And you have moments where the Raptor squad, which are all fully feathered, all accurate and such, actually interact with the descendants of the first generation of raptors.
I think that would have actually been, to have the Velociraptors go off their loop of following orders or, whatnot. I felt like integrating wild raptors in the plot would have been the more interesting way to do it. They encounter wild versions of themselves and everything goes haywire from there.
Yep. That would have made a lot more sense than having it be the Indominus that did it.
Yeah. I understand why they did do that, because they wanted, the hybrid element to play in an important way in the film. I do understand why they did it that way. It has that, you meddled with nature and look what happened. The thing, it's smarter than you expected. It can camouflage. It can mask itself from thermal. And also you threw in raptor DNA, and guess what? It actually can, quote unquote, communicate with the raptors. I mean, they feel like they're part of the same familial unit. They understand each other's cries for, help or rallying. They respect the dominance of their pack structure.
And yet, for some reason, the camouflage never shows up again.
Honestly, I think it was a budget thing.
Really?
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised. Jurassic World, a lot of stuff was cut because of the budget. You've seen, I'm sure, the storyboards from the very different sequences.
I have drooled over those storyboards.
From my understanding, one of the bigger reasons why that opening montage of like going through all the different rides and everything was cut was mainly, it doesn't entirely fit into the structure of the film as we know it in its final form, but that's because, from my understanding, is it was a budget thing. The Universal kept trying to slash the budget. It started at like 185, and then Universal tried to slash it down to like somewhere like around 110, and then shortly afterwards the movie got delayed, and then they begrudgingly went up to 135 and then went to 150. But budget played a role to it.
Well, thankfully, budget should not be a problem with the next one.
I just hope that they don't like suddenly go like, we can do whatever we want. Like, I still hope that they I think what makes Jurassic Park work so well is because of the limitations, not of the budget, but of what they thought they could do effects-wise. They found interesting ways to do the dinosaurs. And the dinosaurs felt like animals. I mean, when you see a wild animal, more often than not, you're not getting them in full grand view. And they really played with that idea. T-Rex hidden by rain and in the night, and little passing glimpses. You feel like that movie's filled with dinosaurs, but there's only 17 minutes of dinosaurs on screen.
If that.
it works. It works for the movie. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel like, oh man, I wish there were more dinosaurs in this movie. I'm not saying that you can't have more dinosaur screen time, but I just hope that the important bits are important. Like
Right.
they actually have a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and they're smart about it, and just don't go, well, we've got a budget this time. Let's go nuts.
Right. I believe that, I mean, I think that's true not only of the Jurassic franchise, I think that's true of any creative endeavor. Limitations. Limitations
Yeah.
force you to be creative.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things where I want them to have limitations, but I want them to be self-imposed. Like,
Yes.
I don't necessarily want them to say, well, there's something we can't do because we just don't have the resources. I want them to say, well, we can do anything we want, but we know that that's a trap.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
And I'm going to go out there. I'm going to say that I have some confidence in them in that regard because I think, like I said, I don't know. There's just something about Bayona that I trust, and
Yeah, if you saw his other films, though, you definitely would. I think that you definitely feel even more firm about that confidence.
That's good to know. So, as for so we talked about dinosaurs, talked about setting, the story for Jurassic World 2. I mean, we could sit here and speculate endlessly.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And
there's so many different ways that it could go, and there's plenty of ways that I would enjoy to see it go. Out of curiosity, did you see our article on Jurassic Outpost about where we tied together, from what has been said, and then also those domains that leaked out, and then like kind of the speculation from there? Did you read that article?
I did read that article, yes.
What do you think? Is that something that does that make sense? Do you think that's possible? And do you want to see that? I guess those are two very different things.
I definitely think it's possible. I definitely did not think that, like, fan theories can sometimes have a reputation for going way overboard with the speculation and like making stuff up and like thinking it's supported, but it's not. No, it definitely didn't go down that route. Everything it was fairly conservative. Um, it could point to things and say this is why we think this. Is it what I want to see? I don't know. Part of that's because I don't know what I want to see, really. But also partly because, like, the whole thing about a rescue mission to Nublar, I don't think that's what I want to see.
It feels like the Lost World 2.0.
Yeah, it does. And to me, the whole point of getting those embryos off the island in Jurassic World was to move the franchise off the islands.
In fact, I mean, a year or so ago, probably a little bit longer now, interviews with Colin Trevorrow seem to suggest they're getting away from the islands.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
And I think that sometime between now and then and now, as the story continues to develop, I think that maybe the way that they're closing off the island story in the sequel, maybe it just kind of slowly kept getting bigger and bigger, and it just became like it's because from what we understand, when Colin talked about when he was on our podcast, he made it sound like the familiar area, Hawaii and everything like that is going to be a good portion of the movie. Because all we heard at that point was there was a rumor about Beacon Beacons. But basically, we heard Pinewood Studios and Hawaii. Those are the two primary filming locations.
Right.
And, he didn't go like, well, there are other locations. He was like, yeah, he kind of like gave like moving the story along, but like still sticking with familiar territory. I don't know. And maybe it was just trying to cover up the fact that they are going elsewhere. I don't know. It just I got the feeling that Jurassic World 2 originally was going to be a wildly different movie, off the islands and everything along those lines.
Yeah.
And now I get the feeling that it's going to be not so wildly different.
Yeah. And I mean,
maybe it will be different in the terms of the story that it's telling.
Maybe. It's hard to know at this point. I was really looking forward to it being really different. Because I think that's one of the main problems with the franchise as a whole has been overall the stories have just been a little bit too similar to each other. I think that's because people have been afraid to do something different because they have a fear that if they do something that's really different, it won't feel like Jurassic Park anymore.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I can see that, but I think that has more to do with Jurassic Park just having that very limited scope in terms of a standalone story, and that the real future of the franchise is going to be on looking into this universe of this world. It's our world, but with genetic technology far beyond anything we have, that has allowed for prehistoric animals to become a part of our world somehow.
Yeah. And I think that's important. That's a very important distinction also, as you said, prehistoric animals. And, I know what Dr. Grant says in Jurassic Park 3 about them being genetically modified, park monsters, nothing more, nothing less. But that kind of spits in the face of the entire idea of Jurassic Park.
It does. I agree.
The entire idea was that wow factor. It was about showing dinosaurs were animals. They were these crazy animals, but they were animals. They're extinct now, and bringing them back, there's a lot of ethical reasons why you don't want to do that. There's a lot of risks why you don't want to do that. But it was about these animals. And then Jurassic Park 3 just kind of threw that all away. But the idea is, so turns out some of the interpretations aren't entirely as accurate as they thought they might have been. Okay, that's fine. But, they still behaved like animals. Relatively speaking, the depictions of dinosaurs still do feel like depictions of dinosaurs to me in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Feathers notwithstanding.
To me, it varies by species. Some of them hold up very well, others not as much. But to me, any fan who goes the genetic engineered monster route, I would just point to them and say,
This is a cop-out.
Yeah, it is a cop-out. And go get your Jurassic Park DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, because I know you have it. Pop it in, and watch the making of Jurassic Park. The one with James Earl Jones. How many times do they talk about wanting to make the dinosaurs feel real?
Yeah, exactly. And it being about an animal movie.
Yep.
And them not being monsters. And it's, everything that they talk about, it's the idea of them being monsters is so antithetical to the entire concept of the first Jurassic Park film.
Yeah.
And you can't say, oh, well, it turns out that because, they brought them back with frog DNA, blah, blah, blah. But that's just, that was a loop in that's basically a way to justify it being possible.
Yep.
And the idea wasn't these are monsters. The idea was, well, we're taking a leap of, science here, leap of fact to make a science fiction film. So, so sure, there's going to be some little creative endeavors there, but it wasn't, the idea wasn't it was a monster film.
Yeah. I think people have seized upon that as a way to
retroactively explain away
the errors. Yeah. And also to kind of deal with the cognitive dissonance of, I know most people who, if you talk to any Jurassic Park fan, pretty much the thing they'll say is that they love it because they get to see dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They get to see dinosaurs. But, if you have any passing interest in dinosaurs at all, you'll probably know that they don't stand up to scientific scrutiny. So you have these two conflicting thoughts in your head, and then you use that genetic engineered monster thing to try to wave it away without realizing that it undoes the whole thing about them being dinosaurs.
Yeah, no, that's... It's... I don't understand exactly. I mean, I do get it. Like, I'm saying, they can still take creative liberties. People say, oh, I don't want a documentary. Well, once again, having an accurate dinosaur movie, a movie with accurate dinosaurs isn't a documentary.
Right.
That's like complaining that if you had a movie about, like, the dangers of the African savannah, where lions attack, and like, oh man, the lions look like real lions. I didn't want a documentary. Like, no, it was like, what type of documentaries are you watching, man? I don't know.
If you're seeing living dinosaurs on screen, it's probably not a documentary.
Yeah, but so I think that people sometimes take the ideas too literal and they get freaked out or something. But
it's also great when people say that they don't care about the scientific accuracy of the dinosaurs; they just like the movies. And then when you suggest changing the designs, they're like, no, can't change them.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I mean, I get it. I don't want to see the designs retconned.
Right.
You
Me
know,
neither.
it's already confusing enough when Jurassic Park 3 has all these wildly different designs, and you just kind of go, okay, so there were alternate versions of the dinosaurs. Fair enough. Okay, that's just what I'm going to go with. Unless, of course, we're also suggesting that their biology changed as they continued to breed in the wild. They became more natural. You know, with each iteration, they became more pure, which is, I guess, also an option. But either way, I feel like it's best to either introduce entirely new looks and have them in completely different iteration of the dinosaur, or keep the old look.
It's, to me, yeah, retconning is never good. It's almost never good. Like 95% of all retcons in movie history have been terrible.
Yeah.
So
Star Wars Special Edition. This one's a shout out to you.
God, I don't even like Star Wars, and I hate what Lucas has done to those movies.
It's too bad. You hear everything like I don't know why Disney hasn't released the original prints, and it makes me wonder: do they still have them, or did Lucas not spitefully, but when he edited the movies, did they somehow replace the working prints of the original Star Wars films?
I do personally believe I don't know if he's destroyed them or I do think he I don't think Disney has them.
Yeah, I see. That's the thing. I think Disney would have already released them.
Yeah.
By now.
God knows how much money they would have made.
I mean, it's possible they might be putting that in that might be a project they're working on. Because even if they'd have to spend money to restore other prints of the film and make it up to stuff, that's always an option. They'd have to kind of re-edit it, regrade it, everything like that. But unless there's something in their contract saying they can't do that, I don't know.
Oh God! You know what? I wouldn't put it past George Lucas.
It would be weird. I don't know.
You know what the greatest tragedy is? You can't watch an original print of Star Wars, but you can easily and for free find the Star Wars Holiday Special on YouTube. That's the great tragedy in all this.
That really is. That is a huge, huge tragedy. Thanks, George Lucas. No, I mean, I hate dissing on George Lucas because he is such a talented guy. Such a creative, imaginative, talented guy. I think it just, he works best with other people. I think when he kept taking the reins more and more on Star Wars, and he became the only creative force, and nobody wanted to tell him no. That's when it became a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have crazy ideas that we think are good at the time, and then afterwards we go look back and be like, "Oh, that was a horrible idea." I see where I was going with it, but that was horrible. That was really dumb. And sometimes you need someone to kind of contrast it, conflict with it, or just develop it a little bit more. Yeah. I think that's kind of the thing that George Lucas needs, at least with Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
I agree. But what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, actually,
but I don't want to diss on his talent because he's definitely a talented guy. I mean, you look at his pedigree and you're like, he's involved in so many amazing projects, and a lot of really cool stories have come from him. So you can't take that away, even if he has done some really weird, questionable things.
Yeah.
If he did Jurassic Park, he would have done the only version you can buy on Blu-ray right now would be a version where the dinosaurs were all feathered and looked completely different.
Really? Oh, because he would have retconned them?
Yeah, I really think that he would have done it. Yeah, I think that afterwards he would have went in and been like, "Oh, okay, so let's just change it to style. Let's change this. Let's change this."
And here's the thing: is that he probably would have done that pretty quickly after the first movie came out.
Yeah, it would have been 7 years afterwards, so it would be really crappy CG versions.
It would have been really crappy CG, and also, if you look at the sort of the reconstructions of feathered dinosaurs from the late '90s and early 2000s, they look terrible.
Oh man,
they look like somebody's.
Even now, a lot of them look terrible.
They look like somebody just took a velociraptor and stuck it in a gorilla suit.
I get why people are so opposed to feathered dinosaurs because they're not immersing themselves in paleo art for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a lot of great paleo artists out there, and there's a lot of great paleo art out there. But most people when they see a dinosaur book, it's always those same crappy dinosaur books where the feathered dinosaurs are these weird 3D models.
Yes.
That just look horrifying.
Yes.
Not a good horrifying. They
right.
Look
ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly.
That's what when people say feathered dinosaurs, that's what they see in their mind.
Yep. Absolutely. Right. I'm actually working on a short film, a children's short film about dinosaurs for the park that I work at. And I'm working with this film company that are taking a lot of they're not creating new images. They're using images from the internet that are either public domain or like under Creative Commons or whatever.
Okay.
And basically, my job has been saying, yeah, this one is terrible. Don't use this one. Use this one instead. Um, so yeah, I can tell there's if you see enough of these dinosaur books or movies or whatever, you start recognizing these models.
Yeah,
and
it's like it's a very, for some reason, like museums and books, like they all go for that same look and style. Even if it's not the same model, they all go for like that same, like you feel like the same guy working all them. You just look at them, you're like, ugh.
yeah, and it's kind of sad, especially when museums do it, that there are these phenomenally talented paleo artists out there who are producing fantastic work, but they're using these god awful stock images just because they're cheap
Yeah.
and free. Which, I mean, hey, you're getting what you pay for, which is nothing. But
Yeah, no, but there are so many different talented, from the well known to the less well known. There are so many different talented artists out there.
well, yeah,
Just like, come on, let's get a little creative here.
pony up,
What was that?
pony up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, but going back to Jurassic Park though, it has so much creative opportunity. You can reinvent the dinosaur on screen.
Mm-hmm.
You have the chance to reinvent the modern depiction of dinosaurs by doing scientifically accurate dinosaurs, by putting feathers on them. You can totally redefine the way public perceives dinosaurs. Yet you can still have the classic T-Rex in the same movie.
Yep.
And guess what? They will look fine next to one another.
Yep.
The idea of a non-feathered tyrannosaur doesn't break the entire foundation of what dinosaurs were, as long as you also have proper feathered animals in the movie. It's still a fictional movie, and the classic T-Rex is, well, classic at this point. I wouldn't feel right seeing it completely gone from the Jurassic Park films, at least with the Jurassic World trilogy. Afterwards, I'd probably be more open to redefining and redesigning entirely.
Here's the thing. I'm a dinosaur educator, and part of the reason I want the Jurassic Park franchise to die is because of how hard it makes my job.
Oh my god, no, trust me. I used to work at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. Yeah, I know.
But here's the thing. Oh god. Okay, so in a recent interview for Kong, Skull Island, the director said there aren't going to be any dinosaurs in the movie because, in his words, Jurassic World owns that, and that's part of a larger feel, a larger vibe that basically the Jurassic Park franchise is the meter by which people view dinosaurs.
No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I'm not saying that filmmakers have a responsibility. It's not like their personal burden of responsibility to redefine that. It's not their responsibility. However, when you consider what Jurassic Park, the original film, sought to do by showing these are dinosaurs, it's silly not to try to do that again with newer interpretations of dinosaurs.
Right.
It doesn't need to be 100% perfect. Just try to get with the times, get with the program.
Well, here's the thing. No piece of paleo art is perfect.
Exactly.
In Mark Whitten's most recent book, Recreating an Age of Reptiles, he basically devotes an entire section to basically saying we shouldn't even be using the phrase scientific accuracy because we can never be accurate. Our paleo reconstructions will always need speculation. They will always need imagination. And, you may like to think that T-Rex you've created is 100% accurate, but it's still influenced by your own aesthetics, your own, things like that. So, the phrase he uses instead is credibility. Is how much of your reconstruction can you point to evidence and say this is supported by that?
Exactly.
But even then, you don't have to if there's anybody out there, if there are any Jurassic Park fans out there who are worried that if they stick to the science and this will completely there'll be no imagination, no awe, no wonder. Trust me, that is not a worry.
Yeah, and again, I get it. I've seen a lot of paleo art that maybe, and I get it because sometimes you have the feather imprints for some of these animals, and guess what? From what we can tell, for some of these animals, they weren't wild and crazy. But would you be horribly offended if, say, the Jurassic franchise did a Microraptor, but they took design cues from not just your typical, Microraptors. They kind of look like blackbirds in a lot of modern representations right now.
Well, yeah, that's based on the pigment.
Yeah, the pigmentation. Although I've read quite a few interesting things that possibly conflicts with that idea.
Yeah.
I'm personally not entirely convinced. I just don't think that we have enough to base it on, like a verifiable basis on that. But I think that it is a very interesting study. I've loved ingesting all the materials from it, but I'm just not entirely convinced, I guess.
I mean, there are some very, for lack of a better word, hard asses out there when it comes to dinosaur color. And not only based on those pigment studies, but also based on things like diet and the likelihood of certain dinosaurs to be able to produce certain pigments based on their diet. And I get it, yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, come on. You can't.
Well, it's a Jurassic Park film, so what I was going to say is if a Jurassic Park film depicts the Microraptor, it's anatomically correct, but they go a little crazy with the feathers. Maybe they get inspiration from, like, Birds of Paradise. Do something, give eye spots on the bottoms of the wings. So, like, when they fan out their feathers on their wings, you got these two glaring eyes looking at you, because it's this tiny little dinosaur, but it can scare away predators that way. Or, maybe things where, like, it has, like, it can poof out its feathers and they can vibrate and, like, create patterns that, like, when it's threatened or wants to, do a mating dance or mating call where the feathers changes its physiology a little bit. Like, experiment. What can you do with feathers that you couldn't do with scales or leathery skin? And have fun with it. Look to real-world science. Don't go completely nuts with it. Look to real-world feathers. But get experimental. Get weird. Have fun.
Well, I don't know.
I'm trying to make it make sense. If it does these things, why did it do it? Try to think of it as an animal and go, all right, so we're going to say it does this, but at the very least, let's understand why it did that so we can ground it in its own way.
I don't think we actually have to worry about that because the Jurassic Park dinosaurs have never been particularly colorful.
True. And I think Jurassic Park 3 started experimenting with it, and then Jurassic World dialed it way back. Although the Raptors were
a little bit. But they were the exception.
If we would have got animatronics, I feel like the Raptors would have looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I was just looking at videos of chameleons and just like their scale patterns and their bright colors and how each individual scale has such like a vibrancy and a sheen to it. And the Jurassic World Raptors didn't capture that. But man, something tells me if we had animatronics, they would have, especially like Charlie or Delta with that green. I feel like that green would have been really vibrant in an animatronic.
Yeah, and I remember reading an interview. I forget when this was, but sometime in the last year, about one of the artists on Jurassic World basically saying they didn't want the dinosaurs to be gaudy, and that's why they didn't go for bright colors. That person is missing the point that a creature can be colorful without being gaudy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like hot pink over lime green.
Yeah.
And, so I feel like all of the opposition to go with the science is just all based. I just don't think it has.
It really comes down to people saying, hey, dinosaurs were scaly in my childhood, not feathery.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Although they obviously weren't reading the right materials because everyone is young enough that dinosaurs were indeed feathered in their childhood as well. If they just would have went below the kind of run-of-the-mill stock of dinosaur material.
If you were reading the right books.
Which I was. I mean, I still own some of the books that I had as, like, I don't know why they were bought for me because it was, like, well beyond my reading level. I eventually did start reading them. I've got scientific journals. I've got all this crazy stuff. I mean, that's what I was going to school for a long time was paleontology. I had a really unique intern position at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, and it's a big part of my life. And you might say then that I'm biased or whatever, but I'm totally fine with them going wild with them. Like, it doesn't bother me that they gave the Dilophosaurus a frill. It honestly doesn't bother me. I know it should bother me. It doesn't. It's unique. It's creative. It's iconic. Does it bother me that other companies and books throw frills on Dilophosaurus because of Jurassic Park's iconic status? Yeah, that bothers me. But that's on them. That's not on Jurassic Park. Overall, Dilophosaurus, yeah, it's the wrong size. Yeah, it has a frill.
And no, it's not a baby.
Exactly. Thank you. It is not a baby. That is not what a baby animal looks like in the Jurassic franchise. Nor is that the way a baby animal behaves at all. And plus, the interviews have all said they changed the size of Dilophosaurus because they wanted it to contrast nicely below the Raptors. But it is not a baby.
Yes.
It's just they're smaller in the Jurassic franchise. That's what it comes down to.
Yep.
Let's say it's genetic tampering. Either way, I could believe a dinosaur existed, a real dinosaur existed, like Dilophosaurus. It's not so far removed from realistic depictions of animals. Do I think that they should strive for better accuracy with making new dinosaurs for the most part? Yeah, I do. But it doesn't, like, little one-offs like that don't bother me horribly. Especially if they were trying to get everything else more accurate.
Let me put it this way. I would have been fine with the frill. Well, here's the thing. If it's a trade-off between the frill and the venom spitting,
Okay.
I prefer the venom spitting.
Yeah.
Both is too much for me.
It is a bit much. But it's iconic. And it does... I guess what I'm going at is it does feel like it could have been a real animal that existed. Did they take a lot of creative liberties there? Yeah, sure they did. But it does feel like a real animal that could have existed. And they did take steps to try to make the dinosaurs kind of accurate for Jurassic Park.
Oh, no, they absolutely did.
Were the big exception, I think.
Well, we can all blame Greg Paul for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah. But actually, here's the thing. I actually went maybe last year in sort of Jurassic World fervor. I went and compared all the dinosaurs, all whatever number of them have appeared in the franchise, including the pterosaurs. To see, all right, which ones are the most accurate, which ones are the least accurate. And the Dilophosaurus actually holds up better than you might expect. Because
that does not surprise me, to be honest with you. Because you take away the frill and the venom spitting, and you've got a more or less a Dilophosaurus. The jaw structure is a little different, but it does have the notch. It's just not nearly as
pronounced.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I believe in getting credit where it's due. So, for example, if a dinosaur has weird anatomy that other artists often miss, I will give points if it's in there. And Dilophosaurus has very unusual body proportions compared to other theropods. It's very long. It's very lightly built. And the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus has that. And that's missing from a lot of Dilophosaurus art. So, in that sense, it does fare better than you might otherwise expect. Despite being having one of the most infamous, or two of the most infamous errors.
Yeah. They took very big creative liberties with the Dilophosaurus.
Yeah, and the frill is that comes right the hell out of nowhere because
it really does.
It's not in the novel, and you can tell that it was just somebody drew that and somebody was just experimenting. Just hey, I wonder what this would look like, and Spielberg just happened to like it.
Yeah, and honestly, though, I mean, that's where the best ideas come from. Is just and to be fair, I see a lot of paleo artists take speculative designs and they do speculative things. There's some really cool speculative paleo art. Maybe not that crazy, but I've seen.
Oh no, I've seen things even crazier than that. Did you see the? Have you ever seen that? Oh God. It's an aquatic Spinosaurus, but it's an aquatic Spinosaurus from before the new study 2 years ago. But basically, this person drew Spinosaurus as a fatty-humped, quadrupedal, trunked, almost seal or elephant seal type thing.
I don't think I saw that one.
Let me see if I can find it. It's a little crazy. It was on DeviantArt, so.
There's a lot of interesting paleo art. DeviantArt.
Yes.
While you're doing that, though, another, this one's not nearly as wild, but Mark Whitten's, his speculative feathered Pachyrhinosaurus.
Ah, yes.
I really dug that idea. It's not the way people tend to feather, these animals. It's not entirely improbable, but there's not really much evidence suggesting that at the moment.
Well, here's the thing: is that wow? Is that okay? There we go. As he says in his, because of course, whenever he does a piece of paleo art, he has this gigantic description of like why he did it, why he did it.
Yeah.
And in his sort of rationale behind that, he's pointing to the fact that when paleo artists, we tend to put too much stock in phylogenetic bracketing because when we have limited information, which we do, we want to squeeze as much out of it as possible. Mm-hmm. So we want to say that.
Oh, this is really cool, by the way. This Spinosaurus.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Interesting, yes, that's the word for it. But like, we want our information to be more reliable than it is, so that our paleo art is more credible than than it actually is. It's more credible, so we think it's more credible than it actually is. So, what he's basically trying to remind people that no, phylogenetic bracketing is a guideline. It informs how you draw different dinosaurs with different integument, but you have to take into account things like adaptation and the power of adaptation. So, as he points out, we have Asian elephants, we have woolly mammoths. They are extremely closely related, and yet there is a vast difference in their integumentary distribution. So, when we have Pachyrhinosaurus, which we do not have, really certainly not that close relatives with any kind of skin impression, and you take into the account that it lives in Alaska, where it's cold, and it would have been cold there even in the Mesozoic.
Yeah, people don't realize. I think a lot of times people think of like those old school depictions of dinosaur, where palm trees and volcanoes everywhere, and it's just like harsh and deserty, and like I think a lot of people still think of the age of the dinosaurs like that. It makes cool artwork. There is a certain nostalgic. I like the vibe, but no, like you said, it's cold.
Yeah, so when you factor in that, there's definitely a lot of adaptational potential to evolve a thick coat. And we look at the history of Sauropoda, and we know that the genes for soft integument are in there. We have Psittacosaurus's bristles.
Yes.
So, it's not, it's speculative, but it's not beyond the realms of plausibility by any stretch of the imagination. And again, it's not like Mark Whitten is saying Pachyrhinosaurus was fluffy.
Was feathered.
Yeah, he's not saying it's just, it's just a hypothesis.
Yeah, it's a possibility, exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, the way that he handled it in terms of just, I think it was a very good, he brought up a really good point with the article. He created a really cool piece of artwork, and there was science behind it. And I think that it all kind of clicked for me. But I really dug the look. Mm-hmm. And, they kind of, these shaggy Pachyrhinosaurs. It works.
It does. It does work.
Whether or not that's what they look like or not, I don't know. But you know what? The anatomy's there, and the science is there. Whether or not that one was feathered or not, mm-hmm. It has a really good basis.
Yep. It goes back to the idea of credibility versus accuracy. Is it accurate? We don't know. But it's definitely credible. He put his evidence out there. He put his arguments out there. He defended his choices. And that's what any good piece of paleo art has to be able to do. It doesn't have to get everything right, because it's never going to get everything right.
Exactly. I think that people, a lot of times they think when people also want accuracy, like modern accuracy from the dinosaurs in the franchise, they think that people want to limit the creativity. And that's not what's happening either. Nope. That's not at all what's happening.
Nope. If anything, I think keeping them the same is what limits the creativity.
Yeah, totally. Which, I mean, obviously, again, that's why most movies, when they're sequels, they have things that are the same and things that are different and things that are new.
Right.
And why should the Jurassic franchise be any different? And why shouldn't they embrace scientific accuracy with some of these new animals? I mean, that's what they're trying to do with Jurassic Park, and things changed.
Largely because of Jurassic Park.
So why not stick with it? I mean, why not continue to define what these things were?
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing: they're defining them what they were one way or another. Why not do it right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, and the thing is, when they're doing it, yeah, sure, Jurassic Park does dinosaurs better than most other dinosaur-related media, for the most part.
Certainly dinosaur movies.
Yeah, movies, yeah, I should say. So, but they're not doing it very differently. Like, yeah, sure, the art style, they're more animalistic looking than, like, a lot of other movies, but they're still, like, kind of the same idea, like these giant lizard creatures. I mean, they're not doing anything radically different, so why not do something none of these movies have ever done with feathers? I mean, there's 1,000 opportunities that come with the idea. You can create really unique animals. You can create something new to all theater goers. You can create something different. You can behaviorally treat them differently as well. You can say, well, we want a different type of dinosaur in this movie that acts different than some of the dinosaurs we've seen. So let's look into the scientific record. Let's try to get this right. Let's find out why this animal is this way, how it should behave. It just really take it to the next level. And then filler animals like Gallimimus. Okay, if you want your non-feathered Gallimimus, throw it in there, but have a cousin species fully feathered right next to it. And it just starts clicking that way.
Yep.
And, Microraptor or Archaeopteryx, things like that. But I feel like it would almost be a cop-out if their only feathered animal was a winged flying dinosaur.
Yeah, it was already a bird.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bird with teeth and a tail.
Yeah.
And some claws.
Yep, so which we've kind of seen that already from the Jurassic franchise. So that Jurassic Park arcade game that came out, I think, last year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it had Archaeopteryx in it.
Yeah. I mean, little, like, Zerg rushing Archaeopteryx.
But I have yet to find that arcade game.
Oh my god, there's, like, tons of them.
Yeah, you know what, to be fair, I haven't really been in an arcade or anything like that recently.
Oh, they're like in the mall.
See, not for me. Like, our movie theaters and everything, they do not have arcade games. Really. Nothing new. It's normally, like, still, like, 20 years old, like, arcade games. I'm like, But what I was going to say is, that Archaeopteryx in that game, is that the only dinosaur that's in that game that's not in the movies?
Let me think. I'm trying to remember the full species list. You got Triceratops, you got Spinosaurus, you got Raptors. They have giant bugs. They're like giant spiders.
Oh yeah, it kind of got like Kong Skull Island.
A little bit, yeah. Pteranodon, which are like Avatar ripoffs. I think Microraptor is the only dinosaur in that game that doesn't show up in the movies.
It makes me wonder though, like, do you think there was artwork or something, or do you think it was a dinosaur that they were humoring for Jurassic World that we just haven't heard about? Because they seemingly put a gag order on, like, I've talked to like a lot of artists and they're like, yeah, we're not allowed to put out our artwork for Jurassic World.
That's odd.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that was something that, like, maybe they're humoring? I know Archaeopteryx was what? It was in the comic. It was, you said it was in that game. This makes me wonder. It's like such an iconic staple dinosaur. Makes me wonder if they were going to put it in.
Somebody's printing something. Never mind that.
When printers come alive.
When printers come alive. Oh, God. It's the next Stephen King novel. But you know what? I honestly don't know. It's when I get it, because here's the thing. If it ever was, it was very, very early in the development of Jurassic World. Maybe even before the title.
Well, you know what? I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I've talked to some of the ILM artists, and early on in Jurassic World, they were experimenting with unfeathered velociraptors.
Oh, see, that's what I'd like to see. Even though I never will. But.
Yeah, I think they were, I guess they were really taking the design further ahead, and eventually they landed on, we want this movie to really be a callback to Jurassic Park. Like, these should be the Jurassic Park Velociraptors, like, not a Jurassic Park Velociraptor, the Jurassic Park Velociraptor. Ultimately, though, they didn't entirely achieve that goal because it has a lot of weird deviations.
Yep.
Like, anatomically they're just structurally different.
The necks are fat. The hands aren't right.
There's a lot of weird things they screwed up on it, and they don't have the same profile. They don't look as cunning. They don't look as menacing. They don't look as fast.
No, and as you and as so many others have pointed out, the eyes are just weird.
That actually I would have been fine if they just changed the eyes to give them circular pupils like Jurassic Park 3. I would have been happy. That just looks so much better. But all I know is the CG for the eyes, they look so weird. I'm convinced that they didn't finish their shader for them and they just had to put the movie out as is or something. Because otherwise, I have no idea.
I was trying to think about that, and one of the possibilities I landed on, again, it's just speculation, just making shit up, which is that because we're supposed to relate to these raptors, maybe thinking was that by sort of highlighting their eyes, we might be able to relate to them more.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the idea, make the eyes extra visible, but the problem is that it just doesn't look as real when you're forcefully making something extra visible.
Yeah.
Just like in one of the making of features from Image Engine, they talked about how they didn't apply real lighting conditions to Blue's stripe, so you could always tell if her stripe was blue.
Yeah,
and I'm
I remember that.
Ugh.
It really shows, especially at nighttime.
Yeah, exactly. So little questionable things like that just make me wonder, why didn't anybody say that's a bad idea?
That's the thing. Maybe somebody did. They just got overruled.
It is possible. Yeah, I guess so. Just because it doesn't work, though. If it would have worked on screen, that would be cool. But, you look at it and you go, well, what's going on with the lighting conditions right now? And then you hear that and you go, so that was what was going on with the lighting conditions. And you're like, oh, so there was an issue.
So it's not just me.
Yeah, so I don't know.
All right, this has been a phenomenal discussion, but I think we've kind of exhausted the topic itself.
Yeah.
I think now it's just become two nerds
talking about Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm totally there with you. But yeah, no, I'm really interested. I agree with your kind of ideas for the future of the franchise. I think to get more accurate, to become more accurate, to kind of harken back to the roots, but maybe just go different places with the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of really soft reboot it in its own sense. Just like you said, a world filled with dinosaurs. Go wild with it. Maybe make standalone movies. No longer, don't do trilogies. Just kind of one-offs. I mean, do an ex machina style thriller where it's one person or two people and a couple dinosaurs, and just make it smart. And then you can have a wild Avatar epic journey of a movie. Just so many different ways.
Yes.
But
experiment.
Right. But remember what made Jurassic Park special while doing so. And for the love of God, just put some real dinosaurs on screen so kids can understand what dinosaurs look like. Please.
Please.
And so I can understand what they look like, because I want to see a big bunch of real dinosaur on the screen.
Yeah. The one that isn't sort of talking even though its mouth isn't moving.
Oh, man.
Speaking of Pachyrhinosaurus.
Oh, my God. It's such a beautiful looking movie. Press mute and put it on the background and you just go, wow. And then you press, you put the volume on and you go, oh, what happened?
I have the version of the movie without the sound. Or without the talking.
I didn't know they put that out.
Yep, it's only on the 3D Blu-ray. But, yeah, when the consensus from everybody was, wow, this movie would be great if they weren't talking. Because I'm sure you know the story behind that it was they recorded the voiceovers 1 month before the movie was released.
Yeah, I remember talking to David Krentz about that some time ago.
Oh yeah, poor guy.
David Krentz was actually involved on that Jurassic World pitch trailer.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's somebody that you talk to or not.
I don't talk to him directly, but I see him. I follow him. He's like the Hollywood dinosaur. He's like the Hollywood paleontologist.
I would like to get the full story on that.
I remember actually when he was somebody was comparing that Walking with Dinosaurs movie to Dinosaur and was asking what happened with Dinosaur from 2000, the Disney movie. And David Krentz it was on Facebook, he commented saying, yeah, pour me a drink, I'll tell you about Dinosaur.
Yeah,
he keeps getting screwed over with these dinosaur movies.
had a pitch in the Jurassic franchise. And I mean, I know for a fact that though, I know that Universal tried to downplay the importance of that pitch, but I know
Yeah.
for a fact that who shared it? Well, basically, people were kind of unhappy, and everyone had to kind of lay low for a little bit. And they had to distance themselves. Basically, like the idea was distance yourselves from it. Don't tell people it's actually Jurassic Park related. Make it sound as unrelated as possible. But it was very real, very related.
What do you know? What that was supposed to be?
It wasn't a video game, like Colin Trevorrow said.
Okay.
It was like the internal pitch trailer created, but as you can tell, a lot of work went into it. They used live action actors.
Yeah.
They filmed the Jurassic Park sequence without anybody ever knowing. It was part of a big reboot of the franchise. It was a big pitched reboot, and it might have been what got the ball rolling with Spielberg. I know Spielberg saw it and he liked it. And from my understanding, that sequence there directly inspired the Pteranodons attacking sequence in Jurassic World. In fact, from my understanding, early on, that pitch trailer was shown in the art department for Jurassic World.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, it was they downplayed it quite a bit, and it's very possible that Colin thought it was a video game or something like that. Now the idea was they're going to relaunch the brand with not only just a movie, but it's going to have a video. It was all going to be tied together like a big budget video game that tells a story in the past, and the movie now comes out in this and that. It was going to be a big worldly, like a big kind of like world relaunch.
Oh.
But that's why I'd like to get the full story. I'd like to know more about it.
Maybe
but
one
I know
day.
that pitch trailer, there are apparently multiple variations on it, like multiple takes on the idea. I don't know if it was then maybe the production doing previs style like stuff on it that took it like in different directions. I don't know, but that very much we took it as Pteranodons attacking mainland.
Well, I thought they were Quetzalcoatlus.
That it might have been an open park resort that they're attacking, like a Jurassic World resort.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. But yeah, obviously with scientifically accurate dinosaurs was one of the ideas with that rebrand and repitch. So that's why I like people in the paleontological community. Maybe someone can get the full story. I think enough time has gone that people should be able to talk about it.
So, like one of the consultants can tell their side.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think there's definitely stories to be told. There's a lot of stories to be told in this universe. Sometimes I think it has to be told behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm all ears. I know if anyone wants to spill the beans on anything, I'm more than happy to listen because I just found it all interesting.
That would be great, and maybe one day. I mean,
yeah.
Eventually this is going to have to be so distanced and so irrelevant that there's no way. Anyone could care.
That actually the stories tell remember them at that point.
Oh yeah, that's true. So yep, we are. So I gotta get going. I'm basically taking up somebody's room.
All right.
So here's the thing: if we want to continue this, if you just want to continue geeking out, we can do that too. But I just have to move for a second.
Well, I've actually got to run. I got to make myself some dinner. It's kind of late as is. But
all right.
I threw off my schedule today with my ankle and everything like that. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, it was great talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me by.
Yep, and as more info on Jurassic World 2 comes out, I'm sure we may talk again.
Yeah, filming at the end of this month. Starts filming at the end of this month. That's so weird.
We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Hopefully good news.
I remain hopeful.
Hopefully
for the moment.
Well, anyways, it was fun talking. I'm glad that we were both able to agree on feather dinosaurs and everything like that as well. But
yes, definitely. All right, so good night and take care.
All right, I'll see you on Twitter.
Yep, see ya.